And I don't know, I feel like I was on the verge of failing. Hey guys, my name is Cheng. I'm a first-year medical student here at Indiana University. So we finished our first official final exam on Friday. They covered the first block of human structure, which is like the upper limb. And yeah, it was really hard. I'm not gonna lie. I think one thing med schools try to do to alleviate the stress of like studying is to make the classes pass-fail. That being said, you still need a 67 to kind of pass the block and pass the course. And I don't know, I feel like I was on the verge of failing. Basically, the final exam was portioned into 3 parts. Since here at Indianapolis, we have the biggest class size, all of our classmates were kind of sectioned into 4 groups. I was the first group, and how my exam was structured was that we started with the lab practical, which you go into the cadaver lab, and then there are 40 cadavers just laid out on the tables, and you basically have 40 minutes, 1 minute per question, and you rotate, and then you kind of just answer the questions at the table. Most of them were identification questions, so you kind of just like, they basically wrap a string and then pin the structure that they want you to identify. So that was like the majority of the lab practical. And then a small portion was like second order or third order questions. That kind of warrants you to think a little bit deeper. For example, one of the second order questions would be like, what does this structure innervate? So in order to answer that question, you gotta first know what nerve it is and then figure out like what does that nerve innervate. So I guess it's a little bit harder of a question, but that's like a small portion of it. So we start out with that, and just going in, it was kind of nerve-wracking because like you only get 40 minutes to do the exam, and your walking time to the next table also counts into your minute of that question. I started at table 40, and I had to run all the way to table 1 to answer the question, and by the time I got there, I had like 45 seconds left. So I guess the lab practical was difficult in that sense. I felt like I went into lab enough times in the past couple of weeks and kind of just know where everything is located. I guess the biggest thing in terms of the lab practical is that sometimes 60 seconds is actually too much of like a time frame, because like I feel like 60 seconds you actually have time to second guess yourself. I remember going to some questions and I knew like immediately what the answer was, but then as time went on, you had to like sit there until the 60 seconds is up because everyone's like rotating. You got like 40 people rotating around the cadaver lab. I have 45 seconds to second guess myself and be like, what if it's that? Like, what if it's a long thoracic nerve or like something else? I think that really messed with me. I went in with the mentality like, you shouldn't change your answer, like you should always trust your gut, but I still ended up like changing like 2 or 3 answers, which going back did not really help me, and I really should have just like trusted my instincts for that. But that was a lab practical. Another part of the final exam for block 1 was the histology portion. So after I finished my lab practical, we ended up going to the computer lab. It was a multiple choice histology exam. It was on like some sort of like testing software, and I think that was the hardest part. There are a lot of memes in the group me afterwards, and people just looking at the histology exams and just not knowing what's going on. It's a lot of pink, a lot of purple, and then sometimes a lot of like just like dark blue, white. It looks the same. After a while, like every single slide looks the same. So there's 40 questions in that. I'll be really happy if I get like a 20 out of 40 for that, because I don't think I studied the most for histology. I honestly thought it was just gonna be like IDs, like they give you a picture of a slide and then they ask you like what the slide is or like what this structure is within the slide. But a lot of the questions were like second order or third order questions. I could identify the slide. I know like if this is like a bone tissue, or I know this is collagen, but like they just ask second order questions like embryologically, like where does this come from, and all those other questions I didn't really prepare for. I think that was my toughest one, and it was 40 questions. You have 40 from the practical, 40 from the histo. That's 80 questions, and then the last 80 is another multiple choice exam on the testing software, and it is the human structure portion, so it's kind of like the anatomy portion. And I think that's where I did the best on. I did a lot of practice problems beforehand, and I did my Anki cards, I reviewed the lectures. For me, I need to do both Anki cards and practice questions to be really successful on the exam, because on the exam you usually don't get like things that the Anki cards are going to tell you. Anki cards basically are flashcards that like kind of re-jog your active recall memory, like what inserts on this side of the bone, or like what nerve innervates this. Obviously on the exam it won't be as easy as that, but if you have a really good foundation, which is kind of what I use Anki for, basically you have a really good like foundation on how to answer those questions. So the exam had a total of 160 questions. It was a 4-hour exam, kind of like half the time of an MCAT. I think it was like 7 hours. So it was really time intensive and it took a lot out of me. Thankfully we didn't have anything scheduled for Saturday and Sunday, so we had the weekend off. We as a class went on Friday. That's another thing about like med school, is that at least for first years everyone is on the same schedule. So when we take tests and stuff like that, everyone finished at the same time. Everyone is basically on the same, I say, like stress level. Everyone's kind of going through the same things, and yeah, that's like one of the small things that I really enjoy about med school. So that was Friday. Saturday and Sunday I've just been trying to reset. My last week was really hectic. My room was really messy, and so was the kitchen, and I was just like eating scraps like from the fridge and stuff like that because I was so busy studying. And now since I don't have any like classes and stuff, I've been resetting, and I went to get groceries. I shopped like an adult for the first time. So like I have like receipts, like the Costco receipt. I went in for the first time like being in charge, and like they checked it off for me. So that was fun, and I spent a total of 120 bucks. I didn't know groceries were that expensive. This is my first time tracking and kind of budgeting how much I'm spending, all my expenditures and all my what is it called? All the money I'm making, which is negative. I'm not making any money, but I'm trying to keep track of everything and just stay on top of it. But yeah, it was a really restful weekend. After the exam, you don't really get your scores back. Just for this exam, because we had to do the practical and then you had to like rotate and stuff. So you don't really want to take the multiple choice exam and then they give you your score and then you get like a 6 out of 80 and then you have to go to the lab and take your practical. I feel like I'll be really stressed out at that point. So we didn't get our scores back. We're gonna get our scores back on Monday. I think it's September 12th. And then we have a review session to kind of go over what we went wrong. And yeah, so after the exam, I was pretty stressed, but the more I think about it, is like I can't really go back on the exam and change my answers like to the correct answers or whatever. Like I already took it. I should be proud that I finished like my first quote-unquote like exam for med school, and I feel like I tried my best, and I just hope that I don't fail. Failing isn't really the end of the world. Like you have to be above a 67, I think, on the average of your 3 exams. So if you get like a 50 on the first one, you can still kind of catch up on exam 2 and 3, but hopefully I pass on the first one, so like I don't have as much like built up like pent up stress for block 2 and block 3. So yeah, I kind of just let that go, trying to stay focused on block 2. These exams are not cumulative, so my previous Anki cards, I'm gonna suspend them and then start fresh basically. So it's like 3 weeks and then you start fresh, and then 3 more weeks, start fresh, and then 3 weeks. I know a couple of my classmates already started ahead on the lectures. That's probably not a bad idea. I feel like once you get your study habits down, like you know what you need to do, and some people need to watch the lecture early. I feel like that's me. I like to go over lectures like again and again. So I might do that tonight after I upload this video. On top of that, I'm also trying to stay back on track on sleeping. I've been sleeping like shit for the past like couple of days. I will study until like 2:30 and then like wake up at 8 and then go to like clinical rotations. But yeah, I just need to get back on track of sleeping 8 hours a day, keeping a healthy sleep schedule, eating well, and all the basic lifestyle things. Besides that, I went on my first clinical rotation on Tuesday. It was east of Indy, east of I-465. If you guys know the interstates of Indiana, you probably don't, but it's okay. I went to a IU affiliate hospital who is an internist and he's doing primary care. So I shadowed him for a couple of hours. I do have experience in the hospital, but it's more like a nurse's assistant role, and have this longitudinal preceptor that I'll go back to throughout the year and shadow under a physician and seeing how he charts, seeing how he puts out the codes, seeing his thought process and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty cool and I wanted to share that. But yeah, that's basically it. There's nothing much to it. I'm gonna upload this video and probably get ahead on the lectures, and hopefully that'll make me less stressed further down the road. Anyways, thank you for watching, and make sure you like and subscribe. Comment down below any questions you may have. I'll try to answer them to the best of my ability, and I will see you next week. Peace.